Savannah?
Here.
Jackson? Here. Odell's here. Nathan? Here. Nestor? Bryce? Here. Eric? Here. Lauren is excused. Hunter? Here. Ray, sorry. Heidi?
Here.
Marianne?
Here.
Ernesto? Here. Martine? Here. Jade?
Here.
Riley?
Here.
Okay. Katie?
Excused.
Ariana? Caitlin? What's Caitlin? Oh, okay. Lindsay?
Here.
Emily? Erica?
Excused.
Okay.
Okay. Now we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Second. Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the agenda is approved. Okay, now we'll move on to approval of last meeting's minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, moving on to calls to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to say anything at this time? Are you here for the funding request?
Yes.
Okay, that'll be the next point. Okay, so now we'll move on to funding requests. First, we have USGD's funding request, which Karina, would you like to speak on that?
Okay, so this is for Devils in the Skies. USGD usually ends up supporting a portion of that this every single year. This year it's $2,000 for the t-shirts that all the volunteers get. So I'm sponsoring the request on behalf of them, but USGD usually sponsors them.
Are there any questions?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the request, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, approved. Next, we're moving on to the next one, Jackson.
The next USGD funding request?
Is here.
Yeah.
That's for Bryce and Caroline. Bryce, would you like to?
Sure. It's for a meet and greet on April 13th. This is for 12 dozens with RHA and Kenny.
Are there any questions?
Where's the location again? Our downstairs. Okay.
Other questions? Is there a motion to vote? Okay, all those in favor of approving the request, say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Okay. Okay, the FC wellness team.
Hi, I'm the director of the Wellness Team organization, and we're having a dorm cooking demo for dorm students at Taylor Place, and we're working with a nutrition class, and their Barrett students are doing this for their honors credit, and we're just supplying them, and this is the money going towards the ingredients and stuff.
Are there any questions? Where's your event?
It's going to be in the Health South Kitchen on April 7th.
And also, how are you advertising?
We've actually recruited with the dorm, and we have 32 students signed up already for the event. And that's our cap.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the request, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, it's passed. And then moving on to PRSA. Is there a member present?
All three of us are members. We're here representing PRSA because the president couldn't come today. We need funding for food for our Grand Canyon trip, which is actually in a few hours. We had all our funding for everything else approved except for the food. So that's why we're doing.
It's for volunteer work and educational opportunity for lecture as
We're
well.
helping professors' class with this training.
Do you guys have set food or is it just like an allocated amount of money for like fast food or?
We have a list as well. We can be cooking food, we have patties, we have condiments as well. We have a whole
Okay,
list.
so you guys pay your own food?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Do you
Yeah.
have a breakdown?
No, so in the past, when PRSA would come ask for funding for food for their trips, they would just be given a P card in a certain allotted amount, and they would go and shop for the items that they needed, because on a cost breakdown and the list breakdown, we would need to use this to do so. Requests like this have been approved. This is by far the biggest it's ever been up for approval, but granted, there are 26 people now.
So on the agenda, it says $1,040,
Yes,
and then on the budget plus it says 800.
correct. The funding request, if you may recall, is from the BAC meeting at the time of the original request. It was requested for 850. In the past 2 days, after clarification from their president, the amount that was supposed to be requested at the BAC meeting and kind of the explanation for that requested amount was provided to me by their president.
And then, so this 1,040 in addition to what we approved?
Right.
How did you get the number 1,040?
There's 26 people who are going, and the allocated money for food provided for each person is $40. So $40 times 26.
So just to clarify, you said that you guys aren't feeding them for Friday or Sunday, it's just for Saturday?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner for Saturday.
Is it $40 per person per day?
Just for Saturday, so yes, per day. I mean, it's just Saturday, yes.
Do you guys have a breakdown, like, of numbers right now, of what exactly you thought costs?
Oh, no, we have not bought it yet. We're trying to get the money approved so that we can get the P card from Diana upstairs, who's waiting for our answer, or for your answer.
So if you didn't get this approved, like how would you use personal money to get food?
No, we would use the P card. Sorry,
If it didn't get approved.
Oh, if it didn't, then I suppose, yes, we would have to use our own personal money.
We do have a breakdown of what supplies we need. We don't know exactly how much it's going to cost. We can associate, we can guess how much it's going to cost. We can probably bring the price down a bit if that's going to be needed.
I don't know if this maybe starts to Jackson. If the money's not spent, does that just go back or how does that work?
So if they want clarification, if they do not spend the allotted $1,040,
Or it's like $40 per person, so like who's one does it? Is it gonna be, you can use the whole amount or?
It's-
You don't expect people.
basically, when using the P card, that amount, so the allocated amount is the limit that they can spend up to.
Oh, okay.
Assuming if they do not spend the dollars that they're allocated, yes, it will just roll back about.
Thank you.
And we do plan on going to Costco, so we're not going to go to a very nice
Yeah.
quality grocery store.
I just personally think $40 per person is kind of a lot for one day personally. And I think that can be reduced. I see a really hearty meal with $40 per person, which is good. But I feel like that can be reduced and you could still be able to get the necessary nutrition that you need for this trip.
I mean, if it's $40 per person, if you're going out for 3 meals a day, that's more than $10 per meal. So that's where I think that for.
We didn't make the budget, our president told us and then sent us here. If we can change that, I mean, if we're allowed to change that, then we will.
We could almost cut that in half, if that's
Yeah.
necessary.
So a cost breakdown, Ryan, I'm not sure what you have pulled up on the screen right now, but if say for example, we are going to use dining hall prices in terms of a meal breakdown, just because we are all familiar with potato fix dining hall. It's $7 for breakfast, $8 for lunch, and $9 for dinner, and that's a total of $24. That's kind of usually how cost standpoints are breaking down from the catering world, especially within hotel reservations and stuff. That's kind of what we look into, especially with the Student Nutrition Council, when the funding were testing for the first time, and it was an $8,000 total. That's one of the things we examined. So
Can they seek reimbursement? Is that what's considered?
they can. So reimbursement under what circumstance?
Like if it wasn't approved today, since like the money's like come up in the air, do they come for reimbursement for the exact amount that they end up spending?
In theory, yes, they can. However, I'm not sure what the impact would have costs on the trip. So I would assume that you would like.
Yeah, we would kind of not have any money.
Okay, yeah. I,
For public record, per diem rates, which are the recommended rates for expenditures on a meal, incidental expense, and flag staff are $54, and the average, if you don't have anything for the state, is recommended at $41 per day, just for the rooms.
So if we could break it down 26 times 21, do that.
And just to add in with that Ryan rate, that we do ourselves.
We don't use all of it, but that's or I was just gonna say something like, because if they're not looking to spend the whole money, it'll just go back, so I don't know, but there's an hesitation there, like 5% issue for that.
are there any further questions? Is there a motion?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the funding request for $1,040, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that's fine. Oh, you all don't have this name.
Okay.
Okay. All right, moving on to executive updates, starting with Vice President of Services.
Okay, so today my updates are all just going to be more of this Middle Express update. So that's all these are.
Any questions? Okay, moving on to Vice President of Policy.
So, I don't have a fancy visual, so I will skip for 12 minutes. We have a lot of stuff to be, no constant of Board of Regents basically tweaked. We'll be getting right down to that over the weekend while I go to free. We have legislatively still contacting people. We're hearing from that on Esther. There are nothing really large going on. House Bill 2271, which is your commercial paper bill, is in the final stages. All it needs to do is have one more vote in that House. Hopefully they don't call it early like they did last time, and then we're good. Then beyond that, we have just a note with that Board of Regents meeting, the final draft for the Arizona City Government Collaborative that will be sent off to the other campuses, and then hopefully everything will be good for spring. Vienna Carriega, which is one of our UVA contacts, is now the student regent nominee for that, so it's good to have him in your minds, because he's going to be one of the people voting for you guys in 2 years, and also discussing and holding on the table for these board meetings, especially behind closed doors. Speaking about closed doors, Street Court case is done. There is now a requirement for 72 hours within, minutes need to be up 72 hours afterwards in a public space for the council presidents. They are required now to post a public forum meeting over with COP to discuss the certain things about those minutes. And they are going to see amendments to USGD PRSA constitutions to include them in both. That way there is no discussion whether or not council presidents as above said legal documents. With this, I'm not going to speak too much about it, it's a very political issue in its own regard. So what I'll say is that all these things that we've seen, and if you actually want to see the minutes and other things, you should look at that, you should utilize it. Because if you don't, this is a very limited rule, meaning that it only restricts that it makes certain things mandated.
Everything else can be rolled back very easily with those constitutional amendments, with even daily activity. So if you want to see this going on, as so many senators before me have, including the people who wrote this thing in the first place, and all the way to now, you need to be very active in pursuing those rights of your own. There is nothing that says rights exist. There is nothing that says as certain things are going on. It just says the council president has to do these certain things that's not above the entire constitution. That's all the opinion says. Furthermore, with the whole idea of getting involved in your rights and all that stuff, tuition workshop was this Thursday. Unfortunately, Mr. Brody and I were the only students in attendance at said tuition workshop. So if you want to talk about the tuition situation, we need more people involved with these events, because that's the main time you're going to see it broken down. And if you don't know how it gets broken down, you go in saying, let's cut this, let's cut that. You're going to be cutting a lot of things you like, and you're going to be cutting a lot of things that basically might even be necessary to certain people that we don't have. In terms of the tuition hearing we saw earlier this week, there is a lot that you've seen probably from the U of A, if you were there, with the situation of the marginalized students and other things. And something that I would like to know is easily stopped from having these splinter groups if you actually include them at the table and if you actually allow for dissenting opinions and things like that. But if you don't, what happens is they form their own group because they're going to get angry and they're going to get taken off of that. And we don't want to have the sacrificial sheep mentality that has taken hold in U of A's out-of-state students, which is extremely sad because U of A made the comment that right now their incoming class, 50% of them are going to be non-residents, which would be a concern because it's supposed to be serving the state of Arizona. They have like half or 30%, except for it's not 30% total because of that 50%, a lot of them are universities. And so there's people that would be very concerned that universities are going in and recruiting you out-of-state students on the very notion that most of you guys are going to make it through. So you want to basically be in these conversations and hear them. That way you can actually have your own rights represented as an out-of-state student, your own rights represented as an in-state student, and among all of your friends. Because if we're not at these meetings, we don't speak. And here's the great kicker. The greatest kicker of them all is that the regents and anyone in that meeting will think that we support them wholeheartedly, because what are the two things we listed? One, letters from places like the Residence Hall Association all supporting the increases to meal plans and residence halls. Two, tuition hearing, where we basically either have student governments supporting the items, or people that are very much out of the loop, that don't actually come to the capitals, that don't come to the meetings themselves, complaining about them. They unfortunately disregard the latter, and they sometimes forget about the demands of reform. That's why it's been great that this year we've been taking more steps towards actually keeping those demands in the list and making sure that it's known that it's conditional and that there are major concerns among the students, and it's not something that's easily erased over. But if you don't, what will happen is they'll think everything's fine and dandy. There's no other reason for them to. They aren't on this campus. They don't see the things that you see. They can come around because they have other jobs, other responsibilities, and once every about 3 months, we'll come in and discuss the things that most matter to you. And if they don't have the information that is from your peer group, they're not going to be allowed, they're not going to be able to actually make decisions accurately based on that information. So student participation needs to increase on this, and it needs to be happening throughout the process. Because one of the first place slides is this wonderful thing that shows off how they've been doing talks with this every board or region from when we set the agenda, set the operations budget in June in Tucson, all the way through the operating finance reviews and all this other stuff. And yes, you aren't probably able, unless you're like us, and they said, actually, you aren't probably going to be able to make it to every one of these meetings, but watch them, try to look at stuff, because you won't have a clue if you're stepping in later. It's like trying to do the 7th chapter of calculus after you're without doing anything before. You're just going to absolutely fail. Everything else is built upon that. So be aware of that. If we need to discuss more on the numbers that I've sent you 3 emails regarding the tuition workshop. That's because you didn't want to have one that had all that combined into one. This will allow you to actually look at stuff. But there's some interesting things between our affordability measures, which are mixed now, which is a bad sign. But it's good in the fact that we keep the number low. And then the second part that was more important, is we actually had expenditure markets at this point that we can discuss. And the other thing is your increase in tuition really isn't the main driver of new revenue. The main driver of new revenue is new students and non-resident students, because both of those pay more. Well, residents are actually a drain on the system, so I'm sucking money out of the system. So that's that. I think that's the thing. If there are questions, I will definitely yield for more. That's the last comment, though, is once again, if you aren't asking questions, no one knows that this is going on. So that's what I was saying.
Any questions? Okay, moving on to the presidential update.
Hi guys, so I'll start mine with the tuition just because it's a good transition. Thanks, Ryan. So the council president, as you all know, because we talked about, they write like a statement to President Crow about tuition every single year. It's in my drive. I can send it all to you because I don't really have to. But it's in my drive under the office of the president. There's a council president's folder that has all the meeting minutes and has that letter as well as the priorities of the council. But so in that letter, you guys heard me at the tuition hearing make some of the comments that I thought were downtown specific, but there were even more made. I'm actually very happy with the way the council presidents ended up doing this letter, and I think you all will be too. Basically, our letter read, we were upset and worried about this when we first heard it as well, and we kind of explained the usual reactions that students go through. So we really kind of ended up reaching out and saying that our natural reaction was resistance, and this is where we sat, but we got this extra information, and now we understand it, and we need more stakeholder support, but we also need these items to be met in order for this to be okay, that this tuition increase did happen. So one of the things that, and I think one of the way you all felt represented, especially the downtown one, because I put whatever concerns I heard that you all had in the council president's letter, which the council approved back and then sent out to Dr. Crow. So one of them was where I put in that letter that we're requesting at least a 1.5% increase in the average cost of attendance that was covered through need-based aid for residents and non-resident students. That's something that you all said you were really concerned about, but we want to make sure we don't lose attendance. Students should stay at this university. We also actually ended up incorporating something in there where we asked for improved financial aid advisors and improved financial aid support. Because I did have a student that ended up talking to me and saying that they didn't get enough of a personalized experience with their financial aid advisor. They weren't welcoming, they weren't supportive enough. And so I really talked with Savali, and we put it then in our letter to President Crow to ask that those financial aid advisors are even taught to come up with more innovative solutions, so they don't just go down the typical path of scholarships or loans. But instead, for example, I talked to an amazing student downtown who actually contacts local businesses to get funding from them. It'd be wonderful if our financial aid advisors talked about creative solutions like that. So we hopefully never have to turn to a student saying, that's what you drop out because of the funding. We instead turn to them and say, how hard are you willing to work? You want to write letters to businesses? Let's do it together. Let's find some funding. So we did request that as well. We requested, of course, continuing lobbying efforts at the state to try to get that funding back. We also, of course, said that there needs to be continued involvement with all the student representatives when it comes to this process, making sure that we're getting more and more creative with the way that this information is passed on to the students, especially even just within the student governments themselves. Like I know the Senate created a fact sheet. I thought that was wonderful because it makes the memo that's very long and kind of dense for some students hopefully easier to digest and be more likely to kind of participate in that document. We also talked about how we want to see that there's continued efforts to inform the students that potential increase will be happening, but also efforts to inform students about potential ways that they can respond to it. Some of you might have gotten them, the financial aid services sent out emails to certain students saying there's going to be increase here, some scholarships to look at. So we wanted to see that continue in the sense that students hopefully are more about the potential increase, but not just told it's going to increase, good luck figuring it out, but told it can be a resource for you, here's some resources you can utilize. And those are kind of the big things that you guys are going to see in that letter. So feel free to look at it. But hopefully you all felt you were represented. I read it by Lauren too a bunch of times. She said that it felt like she represented the Senate's opinion. So that's the biggest thing there. But Ryan is right in the sense it's really good to get involved in this stuff. If you weren't able to make the inward tuition breakdown, all of the documents they gave are incredibly helpful. It answers like every question that you guys were ever asking me. So I really suggest that you look at it. It's really great information for the students about the percentage that we already give in financial aid, about the certain deficits that we're in different areas, about the funding at UOA and NAU too, if you're curious about that. So really do look through those documents, send any questions you have. If we don't know the answer, we will be at A1 next week too to even ask more specific questions on our region. So just make sure you communicate with us. With Lauren, I worked on Senate Bill 22 this week, which I'm really excited about. I hope we pass. It's the bill that's basically making certain parameters on future presidents on how they have to pass student program fees changes, meaning a decrease or an increase or the creation of a student program fee. So if there were another athletics fee, it sets up certain parameters that the president has to go through. Otherwise, the Senate could turn them and try and reach them. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's good to put more parameters on there. If you have questions about the bill, ask me. I've been working on a bunch of sexual education and resource stuff with the wonderful intern that I have, as well as we have a lot of staff members that have kind of popped up and said they really, really care about it. So I'm really excited about that. We're trying to meet with Aaron Kraskow, Karen Moses, and Jennifer Hightower as the next step to kind of figure out what they already do and how they can support us, as well as see if we can get some specific data on what ASU students really need in that area. We're also trying to work with the Level Coalition to see if they can help us with some ideas we have right now, but we really need a student one to kind of help push. So just so you all know, if you didn't know, I serve as the student trustee on the board of trustees appointed by Dr. Crow. There are only about 2 meetings a year. The meetings are next week. So I have ASU trustee meetings Monday, Tuesday, and then ABOR Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So if I'm not as available next week, I apologize. I'm going to try to be still very available during email, but I apologize if you look at my calendar next week, which is full from 8 to 5. But if you need to be, please still contact me. I will meet with you at 8 p.m. if you need to or whatever. But if you, just so you know, if I seem to be a little less responsive, that's why. I'm going to try to still be very available. I finalized my outline for what the university-wide online course should be. COP did say that they want to do the Blackboard student government training as a university-wide thing, so I'm really happy about that. I finalized what I think should be in the outline. I included a lot of what the staff member said and then into my folder. If any of you want to end up looking at that, I can share it with you specifically if you ask. I'm awaiting COP approval for the other presidents to say, yes, this is stuff I want to be covered for my staff members. And then I also reached out to NAFTA, which is the student government conference that a lot of the presidents go on. It's just a lot of people from other universities across the nation that I'm asking, what do you offer your students as far as trainings, to make sure we didn't forget anything. Just because even though it's going to take a while, I'd rather start off with like a very good foundation than a foundation that only is 30% of what we should cover. So just so you all know, the student program fee increase was passed to the Council of Presidents, so it is something that we're suggesting administration and approving. I appreciate all the work that we saw for you guys going student feedback. Thank you. COP is canceled next week because next week is ABOR. So I'll be at ABOR as well as Rachel, the Vice President, might be at ABOR. So that's already missed a lot of people with COP. So canceled for next week. We did begin our budget discussions as far as what we want to see come to our separate locations with regards to the fee increase. And I'm very happy with the way the budget discussions are going for downtown. I came in where I would have been okay with a certain number, and I came in with a higher number, and I left with an even higher number. So as long as that ends up getting approved, I'm very happy with the way it's ended working out, and I want to be working with you all as far as what specific line items you want me to put them in. I talked to Jax about this too, so I'm waiting for his feedback as well. But as that gets closer to being finalized, because what I have to request from them is just the chunk number, and then I can work with all of you as far as where you want to see this go, specific line items. Because right now it's looking like you might get, like, I think, $20,000 more than I was originally requesting. So I want to work with you all to say, do you want this to go into this line item? Do you want it to go just in the student organization bucket? So start thinking about that. What you want to go into support. The ASU Because campaign is going really well. They're getting lots of videos from downtown and the other locations. Reminder, that's actually going to launch. You're actually going to see the videos April 11th through April 22nd, Monday through Friday. I'll warn you all when it happens, and the only thing I'll really need from all of you is to try to share it. Because I really want to see if it ends up being successful with our students. If it ends up not hitting off, that's okay. But I really want to make sure that we try to make it successful so we give it a good shot, so we can see if students are really receptive to it. So I'll just be asking you guys share a lot. And then this week I also worked a lot on my success report that I'm going to give you the chances. And then I did a lot about that. So that's it. Are there any questions about anything I talked about? Yes.
I also wanted to add in, since you said you requested more funding from the franchise office, I mean, in a sense, more ideas. I would suggest maybe having them talking to the separate colleges, because some of the colleges have different funds that they can give out to their students. And for our college, we have basically like an emergency fund for students who are in their last semester and they can't basically finish it because they have no budget. So some colleges may have to pull in that they will be able to give their students through different grants and stuff like that we can tell them.
That's really good. Thank you. I'll add that to this one. Anything else you guys have?
Okay, now we'll have director reports starting with the chief of staff.
Okay, just a couple of things. Good news, everyone showed up to passport. Everyone got more reports in on time, except Nestor. And also, dinner tonight, be there. Oh, actually, can I get like a raise of hands so we can be there tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm gonna call actually right now then, and change Article 14 to, I'll just say full, just in case someone else comes. Alright, cool, that's all.
Moving on to Director of Administration.
Okay, so, this morning I spoke with Karina about the meeting banquet, and we're looking at April 29th, just because we're pushing back the date to finalize some things and do like, just get all the details figured out. I know we were planning on doing it at the SDFC, but 2 dates are already booked, and those are 2 Fridays after the Senate meeting, so I'm probably gonna be looking at the San Carlos. That's probably gonna be after your caucus meeting. It's the 29th, right? Or is that- Okay, it's the Senate meeting. Okay, I'll tell you guys what time it is, so I can have enough time to, decorate and all that stuff. And other than that, I've met with Karina, Nathan, and Jackson yesterday to talk about core wellness, sexual health and education for downtown campus. And we're just kind of brainstorming ideas to help handle it and go around the whole legality of ASU not looking like it promotes sex type of deal. So that was a fun little meeting yesterday. And other than that, I'll be working on end of the year banquet stuff. So if you have anything, just email me or text message me. I'm available either or. And yeah, that kind of ends my report for this week.
Is Heidi the only person that couldn't make the 23rd?
Yeah.
Are you the person that couldn't make the 23rd?
Yeah, that's
The only reason why I'm asking, I don't mean to call you out, I just think it's easier. Do you, he said that you might be able to.
I might cancel.
Cancel what?
We have a thing with the leader.
Don't make me decide What is Friday?
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Is that for the banquet?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's
So-
right now you're pushing for the 20th?
So right, we have the 22nd and the 29th, but both of those, we lose an executive board member, and I don't want to, and so the 23rd was the potential to have everybody there, so that's why I was asking. What do you do?
That's the patch run, and,
Yeah, well, what's ours?
yeah, it's in the morning, but like, there's also other service events going on. But, I mean, I could not be other for that tonight. Yeah. Yeah, but, I mean, if someone's mother,
What time is your day?
It's from, I think, like 5:30.
Oh, we were gonna do this at 12. On the Saturday.
During the day.
Yeah.
No, at midnight, I was like,
Yeah, it's really late after that.
So right now, so you just kind of solidify this, can I have all staff members come Saturday, the 23rd at like 12? For the banquet.
If you can, raise your hand.
Yeah, we can't speak now and don't be mad when you're voting.
Seriously.
Amen, Jack? Okay, we're doing Saturday the 23rd at 12. You don't have to call all this if you would like. Can you make that?
Hold on, Bryce has to check.
Okay.
I've already taken.
So if we did one, though, everyone do one. Yeah, okay, we're doing one, Saturday the 23rd. So
Awesome.
okay, sorry. Oh, no, we talked about the presidency.
Okay, any more questions for Abdel? Okay, moving on to Director of Public Relations. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Dylan. Shout out to my awesome intern. You guys, I'm sure some of you met her, Dylan.
Hi, Dylan.
She killed it with social media for passport. Like, super great. I got a few blogs posted this week, which is awesome. I've done sorry, I couldn't get the hand emoji in. Just because WordPress is very much to it. And our blog has surprisingly gotten a lot of views. Like even when I don't post anything that day, we'll still get like 7 visitors, which is like, but I think they're gonna like on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I'm super stoked about that. A reminder, if you have any marketing requests, those need to be advertised process those. So if you have any events coming up or anything that you need marketing for, just make sure you give me at least a week and a half to 2 weeks. If you're a new USGD member, if you could please send me a bio and also your availability.
We do it after this.
Yeah. I'm going to start working on the meet and greet marketing, so you guys will get that Facebook event. So if you get that, be sure to share it out. And then also with the recent state press articles about how USG overall is failing students, I've been trying to strategize about how we can have more awareness and just basically PR in general. I'm wrapping my brain for some ideas. So if any of you want to talk about strategy and communication with me.
What was that? You said there was an article?
The state press has just been posting a lot of articles, especially surrounding the elections, about how students are engaged in student government, how student government is really important.
Just add that it's mainly because there's a very hostile election going on in Tempe, which has people do the right things. But once again, remember, they see USG, they don't care if they're downtown West Tempe, etc. So, and the other part was that combined with uncontested elections and other spots, which has been traditionally routed, just has led to this kind of difference. But it's, in some ways, we should be happy that the state press is not actually taking notice of certain things again, because there's been times where we want without press conference of these issues that have been brought up. We've been very concerned about things downtown, and they are really mad at us downtown, but still we're to continue to follow what's going on, what's going on right.
Exactly. That's why I said no one's calling out downtown. I feel like we're doing a very good job of that. Anyway, and anyone on cycle 2, so that includes executive board members and new senators, new as in very different months. Like they still live in my mind. You have a blog post today. And I know it seems like it's short because I did that extra week on the last one. So thank you. I think you. Yeah.
Where can I find a marketing request? Or
It's not a formal form. It's you just email me. In my folder, I have a whole document with my procedures and like time stuff in there. It kind of explains what I can do for you. So if you want to look at that document, you can just email me.
they were concerned about that, so I'll be talking about that.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, moving on to Director of Finance.
Hey everyone, it's a good week. So back to business. So the BAC went really well. We now have $19,885.72 for allocations for the rest of the school year. So on average, that means that we $9,942.86. Comparatively to last semester, the final 2 PAC meetings were relatively low in their dollar amounts. On the second to last one, we only allocated $521.09. And then on the last one, $3,452.87. So if history is any indication, there should be hopefully some leftover following the end of the school year. We had an awesome meeting. Nathan was there, so was at Bell and Reagan, but at Bell and Reagan, I've already touched on it. Awesome meeting about wellness. Kind of throughout the next 2 weeks, starting my own sort of wellness research and seeing the solutions that I can work on this next year in regards to sexual wellness and how I can push that through. The university funding discussion was supposed to take place today, but after the hecticness and Tempe's representative could not be there. So we are scheduling a new meeting for hopefully Monday morning at 10 a.m. so we can solidify all of the wording and all of the verbatim for the 2 bylaw changes we're looking at making. I talked to caucus last week, so everyone's NOI should be caught up on that. Exec, if you have any questions as far as what we're looking at doing, please contact me and I'll be happy to explain it to you. And just a quick thank you. It's been an awesome year and I'm excited for the next year.
Alright, so the one thing I'm largely concerned is when I was a young NNSD organization, we ended up doing a lot of funding requests at the end to non-critical goods next semester. So if we're gonna run out of money soon, one of the suggestions is there a suggestion on the table to have a funding request sometime in the summer, smearing not necessarily the entire Tempe summer appropriation system, but at least another chance for people to actually buy that stuff, because stuff is like super. That year we actually had surplus, we all bought stuff. The year before, last year, we discouraged that because we had that, that's the thing, so we're gonna have to look out for buy stuff for events now or moments later. But is that something you've been considering on the table, suggesting a meeting over the summer?
I personally, that is not come up. Thank you for that idea. I'll look into it.
Ron and I talked about it briefly. And so right now, at least Ron was trying to map it out to where we would just be able to try to hold it over the summer. So all students do come in. Well, at least him and I were talking about holding one early before school starts, whether it be in the middle of the summer, but like very early, maybe August or something.
Similar to what took place last year.
Yeah, kind of like what took place last year, because last year was even more centered towards some of those restaurants, being centered towards like student workspace they made it point to us. But the idea is that like to at least hold one, even beginning enough in August, where if I had to order promotional items for welcome week stuff, I could come in and get them ordered and shipped to my student board with time. So that's usually what we sometimes end up seeing those summer requests for, is like I need promotional items for welcome week. But yeah.
I will follow up with both you and Ross on that.
Cool.
Any more questions for comments? Okay, moving on to Director of Local Affairs.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi. So first thing that is coming up soon is the meet and greet. It's actually like 2 weeks away. It's already here, basically. We'll have cake pops, and it will be from 1 to 3. So, and it's on a Wednesday, so that should be better for everyone's schedule. So keep an eye out for the volunteer sheet. The 13th. And we will have Katie and RJ there as well. Yeah, like Savannah said, this week I finally was able to meet with Aramark about food options at the pool. So that was exciting. He was very discouraging, but I told him that I still think we should look into it. So I'm working on putting together a survey, and that will be one of the feedback items that we will be able to get at meet and greet. And then after that, and we'll probably reach out to everybody and ask that we reach out to more people to get feedback on that, because he wants a lot of numbers and a lot of stuff to go by. Also, so that's that. Next thing is Earth Week. Ernie and Marianne, if you guys need help with that, let me know. I don't think you got it. And that's all.
Okay, any questions? Marianne, did you have a question? I didn't.
Yeah.
Is there pool side view that can be used by that?
So, all year, obviously it's been a little bit warmer this year, but there have been people at the pool since like February. It's full. It's been full almost every day, I would say. And every time I'm there, I ask people like, "Oh, what do you think about having food here? Like, would you eat food from here?" And everyone's like, "Yes, I get so hungry here." And a lot of computer students also like use the gym or use like the pool in between classes or whatever. But there's no food there. They have to go to class or go somewhere else for it.
So, just looking at different options for like smoothies or snacks or like, also he said delivery service probably was an option, so there's that.
I would just let you know, food advisory board meetings happen monthly. The dates are always off, so it's not it's a new date. But I went to go to them, they talk about activities like Chick-fil-A, and you can go to like, there are a lot of nutritionists there. They have the head chef, and they also have the director of
He basically, what he wants is I've also reached out to the SDFC because he wants like some stats from them about their traffic patterns during the day and on every floor, basically, SDFC. But also just like from students, like would they buy it, how much would they be willing to spend, and like what kind of options they'd be interested in.
Would this be energy or?
Yes, I said like, yeah, he said it's air market.
Have you checked with the SBC, how they feel about this yet? Like, are they okay with having food by their pool?
So what Steve said when I met with him is that they definitely don't want glass up there.
Okay.
But they do catering events out there, like in the multi-purpose room right off the pool, and the pool doors are open, people can go in and out. So as long as there's no glass.
Okay, cool.
I would also add into that I've been to an event and have eaten by the pool,
Yeah.
so like it's possible.
Yeah, you can take food up there.
Any more questions?
I want to ask you some more about this, because we're talking about trying to get this in the chat.
Really? Yeah.
Like they're trying to make feeders, maybe to make like a class where they have nutrition students can run it, get like volunteer hours in it, or like they're going to.
What are those meetings?
Change it, I think.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, moving on to Director of Technology.
All right, so I had my meeting with the University Technology Office, and it went very well. So I met with Jay Steed and Dave McKee, who's the Senior Director for Network Communication. So I talked to them about how to improve the Wi-Fi, and it seems for them, they lack substantial student feedback, so they see tweets that say AC Wi-Fi sucks. Yeah. They don't see like, oh, I'm on floor 12 of Taylor Place and it disconnects every day from 6 to 10. They don't get that information. Because their problem is that every building has to be optimized individually for every single time. And they can't do that over summer because they need to factor in how students are using it. So they're very eager to act. Like I told them about my problems and they were like, all right, today I can send my team out to your floor, we can scan at this time. And I was like, I don't, in the interest of not wasting ASC money, I was like, well, I want to contact a lot of downtown students and see what their reoccurring problems are. So if you look under my file on the drive, you'll see a Wi-Fi feedback Google Sheet.
When you're done, I'll chime in.
Okay. So, what I would ask is that everybody help me out. Contacting a ton of students all the time is not my forte. So I would ask for your guys' help on really pulling students and looking at them. You see the information here, just kind of what the problem is, when it is, and where they have it. It would be very helpful information for them. And I'm going to be sharing the sheet with them and continuing to talk with them, just so that they know when and where to look for the problems. And then,
yes. If I have a minute. I'm Brent President of the Assistant Director for Housing.
okay.
So AG Wi-Fi, particularly in Taylor Place. So last summer, Taylor Place and Capital Management did a $10,000 to $15,000 investment upgrade and added new Wi-Fi signals throughout the building. And over the summer, it was awesome. So Wi-Fi in the building is fabulous and great connections with a few stipulations. But before I jump into that, the Terra management and the housing that we do our annual survey that I sent out and I filled out. And the results were fantastic because probably about a third of the building is like, oh my God, the Wi-Fi is so much better. And then the other 70% is like, oh my God, the Wi-Fi sucks. Oddly enough, all the returners, based on some other answers that you have to figure out, the returners think the Wi-Fi is so much better. And if you're coming as a first-year freshman, like, it could be better because you have your experience from your house. With that said, working with the housing UTO people and our chief technology officer there, Taylor Place alone has 300 plus rogue wireless routers. So what that means, and there's a fancy little sheet that'll be coming out and will be going out to all students before they move in. There'll be documentation going out. When the CAs did health and safety checks over spring break, you may know they were checking for some of these devices. We have IP addresses and MAC addresses for that. But what happens is the Wi-Fi in the building is not like the Wi-Fi in your house. So you may have your main Wi-Fi thing like in your office and then a few repeaters throughout the house. The issue is we're on an enterprise network, which is broadcast out on just a little bit different frequency because it needs to cover mass amounts. So if they came through and did it, they'll find you'll walk the floor with their meter, and I mean, like I said, there's 300 plus rogue accounts, and some people we need to have conversations with of what they call their wireless networks. But that aside, so if ASU is broadcasting out, so if there's one thing, like, so think that if we're in this room, right there, that little blue dot is, that is throwing out a wireless, and we're like, oh, this is great. But now imagine that each one of your laptops was one of your own personal routers that you brought from home. It is now sending out a competing wireless signal and blocking out the ASU Wi-Fi. So for every rogue router that's on there, that's cutting down probably a 30-foot range of quality high speed, and then they're encrypted, so you can't get on that, but it's still sending out the message. So the more we can eliminate the rogue routers, the ASU wireless will increase exponentially. But the other thing is, it's not just the wireless routers. If you're really working with students and talking about, if you're going to bring one of these, it's perfectly fine. Turn the wireless aspect off. Hardwire everything in. Hardwire your TV in for your Netflix. Hardwire your Xbox. Because one, it's significantly faster with wireless. If anyone's played like, oh, wireless is great, I'm streaming. If you plug in, I'm talking like we have close to like the T1 gigabit line. You can probably get download speeds and upload speeds of like 500, 800 megs. Hardwired, which means no buffering for your Netflix. Hardwire in anytime you can. You can have multiple devices. We can give you the cords, there's cords in Taylor Place that you can plug into this and just kind of have hanging over your bed. So when you're on your computer, just plug in, that helps. But the biggest thing are these rogue networks. If you're with us over the summer, like those first 2 weeks, you will see a spike in your speed on the wireless and the ASU Wi-Fi. Because one, there's not 1,300 people taking the signal, but then these routers go away. So anything you all can do to help educate floors, your students, anybody about, if you have this, please turn the wireless off. Hardwiring if you can, that will increase overall. Like I said, there's mass marketing going out through housing in the e-packet of what not to bring, and this is kind of on there. And also, as much as it's inconvenience, even your wireless printers, which are great, like I'm in bed, I hit print, it prints, that's still sending out a signal which can compete. And it's just because we're on an enterprise network, and it's not like your house where you only have 5 devices. The average student now, if you think about it, is coming in with 5 wireless devices. Between your phone, your iPad, tablet, a laptop, your Xbox, your TV, so that's all sucking in one signal. So hardwiring what you can. Please turn off the wireless on your routers, and you'll see an increase in that. So anything you can do to help advocate now would be awesome.
Yes, that was another thing we talked about was when they were doing their scanning for the rogue signals. I'd be interested to talk to you about the flyers because we did receive that email through housing about the rogue networks, and that was not received well by a lot of people, in my opinion, from what I heard, because they're like, oh, that's just an excuse, because they're thinking of their Wi-Fi at home. They're not thinking of this different kind. So I'd love to talk to you about education and how to get that message.
With our housing officer, that does all that, has some of that education to help out. This is just our common ones to look for, so these are the most like common over-the-counter, like open market routers that we see. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another half the battle, is educating students that they are working out, and that they're not just sending this out to cover and say, oh, no, it's not our fault. This is a real problem. And so this talks will be continuing. And then I have, so if you look on the website, you'll see a new tab, agendas and minutes. I just moved the agendas tab over and cleaned it up, so that should still work exactly the same. All I did is move things around. The minutes should all be up to date. I left the old minutes page under information. All the information should already be moved over to the new minutes page. So when you're posting minutes, please use the new tab. If there's a problem, tell me and I should be able to fix it right away.
Where are like the committee meeting minutes, just in the same old minutes tab, or?
Which means, like, it should be under other minutes. Like the operations committee, it's there. Yeah, at the very bottom. You might have to reload.
Yeah. Do you think it'd be possible for like board at orientation to get them to tell the students moving in not to bring their wireless routers? Like, could we do that?
Yes, that is. Yeah. I'm also the assistant director for orientation, so that's definitely in my.
It's like mostly freshmen, so like maybe get very into parents especially too, because sometimes kids don't listen, but parents are the ones buying and stuff, so.
I'd also like to, I think in the email that was sent to the students and housing, I don't think it really explained, like, don't bring your router. Everyone was like, but I like my router, so I'm gonna bring it. Ace was just telling me what to do, I don't like that. And it didn't have like an explanation of why. So that was put into the next email you guys sent out. I think students will understand that getting their ears.
I was on the website and under funding requests, the video says access denied. I don't know if that's just the, under information on something.
It looks good online.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, we're shooting.
Maybe your video is at the 18, because I know video has a page lock as well.
I don't know the USGD.
Is that the embedded one or one of the?
Are we eventually removing the old business tab, so there's only one, just because I don't want students to be confused?
Yeah, well, because I was doing this today. I was just going to delete the minutes tab as soon as I double check all the things.
I figured, I just want to double check.
Yeah.
Because I would be worried that the students would come later and be like, what do you have to? So thank you.
Yeah. So just once again to tell everyone, update on the new minutes tab, because I will be deleting the old minutes tab. So if you put your stuff on there and I don't see it in the double check, it's going to get deleted. So also I want to make sure that these new tabs all work.
Ryan, did you still have? Okay, any more questions? Okay, moving on to university affairs.
Everybody, happy Friday. Happy Friday. Big congratulations to the cabinet, Jackson, Curry, and Jimmy. Also, congrats to Ryan. It was huge for your win. It was a lot of fun to watch last week, Friday. So this week, I had a couple of things going on. I am in hopes of getting a meeting next week with Dan Ashlock so we can actually make some moves with our UBC appointments. That'd be huge so that you all don't have to have that headache moving in Jackson. I'm still working on a West representative for the I-Force fee. I have a name. I've sent out an email twice and I'm hoping to actually get contact back with somebody. And then my last update will be kind of like the policy side. We're having our meetings every Friday right before either exec or Senate. And we're going to try to drop as much information because the budget's going to come out soon. So we want you all to share whatever information we have. We're going to try to blast it on Facebook, our own email feeds, as much as possible. And just really encourage you all, kind of like everybody's been saying, to actually get out there. If we can mobilize folks, that'll show like how much power we have at the Capitol, and then all of the lobbying that Nestor's been setting up and the meetings that we've been attending. It shows how much we're getting done, how much we actually care about the solution. So when we get that when we get that information out to you, we would really encourage you all to share it to as many student orgs, your Facebook and other things that you have. We really appreciate that. And that's it for my update. If you have some questions.
Any questions? Okay, moving on to state and municipal affairs.
Yes, so I met with the Senate minority and assistant minority leader last week. They were very straightforward, very helpful, but made it clear that we will probably only get the $8 million from the governor as proposed, which means the tuition increases that you're seeing will continue to increase as the years go on if we do not get more money. With this said, the greatest thing that we can do as students to help this issue isn't to complain to Michael Crow or to all these different boards. It's to go to the Capitol and mobilize students to voice our concerns, because it's not just, granted, out-of-state kids come here knowing they'll pay more. That's the bottom line. But it's also affecting in-state kids. And the Arizona State Constitution states that tuition needs to be as free or as close to free as possible. So in order for this to occur, we need to mobilize not only our students, but those representatives who actually said we should mobilize parents. So what we need to do is, on top of blasting the different numbers about the tuition increases and everything, we need to get in contact with students who maybe had parents that are very influential in their communities. Sit down, talk with legislators, say, I'm not going to put up with this. I elected you to help serve my community. You're not doing that, or vice versa. However they want to say it's up to them. But we need to start mobilizing not just the students here at Arizona State University, but people who are actually paying for a lot of our education, for those who aren't taking it. So, with that said, mobilize not only your fellow students, but parents. Talk to people about that. Get them to call their state legislators, specifically people that live in Arizona. We wouldn't really have to be much in my phone in Arizona, but if you're from district right now, we're 35, and your legislative person, call them, sit down and say, hey, look, I understand that y'all have a million different things that y'all need to put money into, but we really feel like this is it's worth the investment, because education is one of the most or one of the biggest economic drivers in society. So take that in mind. And with that said, although it's not all positive, that's how it is. So we're going to have to act faster, sooner, stronger, and mobilize more people in the future if we really want to make it. So, CE Marvel.
Any questions? Okay, moving on to the Senate President report. So Lauren isn't here right now, but she wanted me to say something on her behalf. In accordance with Senate Bill 8, she must give out strikes to those who have not fulfilled their duties as senators. Unfortunately, that means that currently we'll be getting 2 more strikes today for a combination of missing board reports, missing EAC minutes on the website, and failure to produce 2 Senate blogs in a row. These 2 strikes are added on to the strike that he received for failing to meet his quota for the honored student feedback regarding the proposed increase in the student programming fee. This being said, he has received 3 strikes, and the Senate must move forward with voting on math basis, which will occur later in the meeting. On a lighter note, she is working on the request to speak process for USGD, and we'll have that implemented by the next Senate meeting. Okay. Moving on to college reports, starting with Barrett.
Hello. So this week, at the beginning of the week before voting happened, I encouraged students to get out and vote. That was as a person campaigning for only 2 positions with 2 people running. It was more focused on increasing voter turnout rather than campaigning. And I think that was effective. During my outside office hours, I talked to students about the tuition increases and gauge their responses and their feedback as well. Hunter and I have been looking to co-sponsor a resolution, so just continuing research on that and just seeing, because it is the end of the term, or getting towards the end of the term, so just really what we're passionate about moving forward. Yeah.
Moving on to Congress. Hi guys, happy Friday.
So I worked with Jackson on adopting the legislation for the bylaw change to PAC, and that's kind of gone pretty well with him. And then I'm also working with Nathan and Adele on the high course team, trying to get anchors again in Tempe and West. And so far, I think emails are not an effective way of reaching out to Tempe and West. So using like personal connections, I know I'm talking to Adele, and he is friends with one of the experts in Tempe, so hopefully using like friendships as a way to like establish some kind of contact, and then you can all get through the 7. And then I don't know who last, so maybe getting this face-to-face contact would be better than text messaging. I do. Go ahead.
What's the timetable for the BAC bylaw change? We have 2 Senate meetings, so we, hopefully can consider that next one.
Any more questions? So this week, I met with Dean Pike and several other students about the tuition increase proposal, and she gave us a lot of different information, which is really helpful on how specifically this affects the college and nursing. And so we had several questions that included graduate students as well. So it was kind of hard getting all of my questions answered because it was a panel and we only had 30 minutes with her, so it was kind of off between everyone. So 3 main things that Conhigh is looking to do is increase faculty, so hiring more professors, hiring more advisors. They've actually already just brought in 2 new advisors this week, so that's in a lot of occurring right now. We asked several other questions about where specifically that goes to. So raises wouldn't be a factor for faculty. They wouldn't be getting raises, they would just be hiring more people because any kind of raises were to happen, they would come from a separate fund and it would be a merit raise rather than something that you would get with tuition. So that doesn't come from the tuition fee at all. So another concern for Conhigh was that for the undergraduate degrees, the program hasn't increased, but the amount of people applying to nursing school has increased. And there's 2 reasons for that, is because faculty size hasn't really grown, and also clinical placements. So these are partnerships within the community around us in hospitals, things like that, to get more places where these students can go and practice their skills that they're learning in nursing school. And because the amount of placements haven't grown, they can't open up more spots in the nursing program and accept more students, because then they would be going on to those clinicals that are so important. So with that, they will, I know Mayo has been doing more spots, but that only happens every 4 years. So it's a disadvantage for people who aren't applying within that time frame. So I'm looking to meet with Dean Pike again, April 19th, to talk about what Conhigh is specifically doing to try to expand that. I know with Mayo, that's a really good hospital and bringing in extra spaces for awesome, but maybe just finding a way to bring them more often, or having them be an every year type of program would be really awesome for nursing as well. I know we asked a lot of nursing grad students, and they asked about how the college pays for like TAs and RAs, especially for students who are working for the college. And so they asked about where that money comes from. And so it goes from the provost, comes to the college, and from that, the allocation of money goes to the appropriate director, and then does the hiring process, is the payment process, that kind of thing. So that was kind of a way to clarify that, because we didn't know where that money was coming from and how they worked with that. So that was pretty good to get that kind of cleared up. And then examples of how the tuition dollars would be spent was simulation lab expansion. So they're looking to add more technology to the labs, because as we know, technology is always growing, always changing. So we have to times so that the students can be prepared for when they go to the medical field and hospitals and things like that. Faculty resources will be expanded, computer resources, infrastructure, part of, as a university-wide thing, infrastructure will be what some of the tuition are used for. And then kits in the simulation class will also be updated. Also asked if retention funds will be increasing, and for next year, the Conrad does not have any plans in increasing retention funds. So, that's all. Okay, questions? Okay, moving on to the classes.
So this week I met with associate dean leads about like their efforts within the college to, they're kind of like looking to revamp like how new student orientation is. Usually like transfer students are like freshmen and they're like changing it by doing like service models or we'll like do a service project together. It's really cool. So I told her I'm visiting with I can assist with that. So I'm going to be in contact with her, the person in charge of that. And then I was like, let us know, so if you need anything that like USGD can help out with. And she was just saying that like if like any students have come with you all with like any perspective of like how they can improve that, like I guess like more focused on like transfer students and how they can better that experience for them. She said to provide that feedback for her, so I told her I would. Also, I met with college council today. So it seems like they're kind of like getting swing of things and starting to plan for next year. So I'm really looking forward to that. Let's see. Oh yeah, and then I did have a student reach out to me like concerned about like advising for one of the colleges or one of the schools within the college about advising and how like their system is a little bit more complicated than other colleges. So I told them to look into that, but I'm just really interested to see like how other colleges do their advising in terms of like scheduling and stuff like that. Because that's where my concern was like it's such a hassle to try to like schedule an appointment with advisors. And I know I think you like mentioned like we carry like schedule something online. So I'm gonna look into that. But if y'all have any like maybe suggestions on what your college do, I'd love to hear that.
Would you mind, either through you or through the student directly, giving me more information on specifically the first year jobs? I'm actually going to do my check-in, and probably next week, actually, we check in with the vice provost in regards to how our academic advising concerns, that we let them know earlier how things are going and correcting that. So when I do reach out, I would love to give that other kind of note of like, hey, because it sounds like it's echoing some of the stuff you already brought up, so it would be easy for me to sneak it in there and say, hey, I have another student that brought this up, I want to make sure you're aware of it specifically at this downtown college, so.
I'll make sure everyone
I know specifically Conrad does walk-ins on specific days and specific times, so that's like open to all students that don't have walk-ins, they can just come in and get whatever they need based on their account. So maybe looking into what times they have at that college, when their walk-ins are, when their advisor is available for those kinds of meetings.
Okay.
Any more questions?
I'd also, apart from my update, our schools within our college, the advising is really long right now. I did mention that in another Senate meeting a while back. The School of Social Work, there have been like appointments a month out. And that's not accessible for our students at all. So hopefully our administration is communicating with those different schools and I'm talking to students about that too. And I know they are fixing it, but I don't know what they're doing in that aspect. Other than that, I did a lot of, not student engagement this week, but a lot of outside engagement with other people. I met with counselors from across the nation who came to ESU and talked about why ESU is a great and innovative college. I basically gave them my story within student government, what we're doing down here, various programs we have in the downtown campus specifically. I also spoke with Senator John Kyle, and also the Next Generation Service Corps, the Public Service Academy. I was able to express basically the same thing why I chose ASU and what we're doing to engage with our students in the different ways that we have here. I also spoke with Amanda Andrews, which is our college coordinator for the College of Public Service and Community Solutions. And as well as Ryan said, they are changing a huge, basically welcome activity for our students. So students who will be coming in the residential hall, they'll basically have the opportunity to attend a ServCon. And that's basically a conference where students can do service. They can meet with their deans one-on-one. You can talk with them. They can meet their academic advisors and stuff like that. Get their questions asked before school starts. They're also changing the huge the Rascal, the way the Rascals do their duties. The Rascals now will be living in Tower 2, I believe. And they'll be asked to do more, such as more service opportunities for their students, and more chill chats and lunches and stuff like that. From that, I attended the Night Fun and Games. When I was out there with Jackson, and we're basically getting students to do the little 30-second elevator pitch, I like to say it's new. I also spoke with a lot of student orgs there, got to know them. And I spoke with another student who was actually here earlier about why he's interested in student government. So just assisting him in that process, letting him know about the different opportunities that we have, from interns to senators to executives and stuff like that. Other than that, that is what I have.
Okay, any questions? Okay, so I met with Brian about the new student tuition coalitions and coming for next year. It's, I mean, we all heard about it. I'm sure everyone knows about it, and it's kind of interesting. So I highlighted my week because it's a cool way to take some of the initiatives and joy from USGD, make it more about the school, not just us advocating. And then besides that, I'm just planning a little bit for next year, tying up some expensive things. I'm going to be going to the meeting and taking King Pride Marianne on April 19th. I know I'm not nursing, but it's cool to like get to know other deans and see what they're doing in their school and try to apply cards if there's some things that are working, like the walk-ins that she was just talking about. That'd be cool to get that in contact because, well, like there's not set walk-in days, so it's hit or miss really if you try to walk. I don't know if you can. I don't think you can walk in. I think you can. It's just not. It's not. It's not. Yeah. After Wednesday, when all of the drama and Timothy is over, I'm going to meet with the intern director to talk about some ideas for next year and how we can apply the intern program up there, down here on like a different scale, but seeing what works over there. And I'm going to try to talk with the senator and Timothy. I have one in mind, but they're all, it's nuts over there, so I'm just waiting for it all to pass until I try to add some more crazy to that. And that's pretty much it for me. So, any questions?
Just a comment. So I have a friend who's elected as senator, so if you need like
that'd be great.
one, I told him, hey, I've had some friends who are trying to reach out, like we're not doing stuff.
Yeah, if you would just send me that, like his context, that'd be very helpful. Any more questions? Okay. So this week we had the Crossfit Leadership Breakfast, which Riley put in usually a class. But not very many student organizations ended up being there as compared to normal, just because there's a lot of transferring of power. Right now, a lot of student organizations are slowing down with projects and finals and things like that. So there were only 4 of us, 5 of us there. And you know, some people double represented the same organization, so there would be the 2. So really only 3 student organizations were there. But the dean was asking for tuition feedback. He was also asking for comments about the 305 class and the 201 class being combined for freshmen. Asking us for feedback with that, but a lot of us weren't freshmen. So I would love to hear your feedback. If you have any freshmen contact friends who are complaining about having maybe 2 enterprise stories in their section, something like that. But he was also asking for tuition feedback as well as what student organizations were doing. So a lot of people are getting ready for end of the year banquets, like I said, transferring power, things like that. As for me, Senate Bill 21, which we'll talk about later, it's just a little bill to clarify business meeting. And then I'm just getting ready for today. And then Resolutions?
Great, first of all, congratulations to everyone who won their respective elections and re-elections. I'm glad to see that all the USGD members who ran will be in there next year. Again, I can't wait to see what you guys are going to do. So still don't have the survey results. Hopefully they'll get back to me soon about that. I know she's still compiling all that data. And then this week, again, Case mentioned, we want to sponsor a resolution hopefully for next Senate meeting. But the legislation is winding down at the Capitol, so there's nothing that will really help out for getting a bill past this session, but more to do something for the future to set a precedent or to try to push something that we want to push. And then during my outside office hours, I talked to students and contacted students about the tuition increase, answered a couple basic questions that they had. Yeah.
What's your legislation?
We're still researching that. Yeah, there was one about having state funding of internships for STEM majors.
For in-state STEM majors.
Yeah, for in-state STEM majors. So we're either doing that or.
So just like hands and practice?
Yeah.
Any more questions? All right, moving on to non-pay-assents. So now we must vote on non-pay-assents for Ernie. Please remember that this is not a personal matter, rather it is our professional duties that we uphold in our bylaws. The 3 strikes were not for not meeting the quota for the student programming fee, lack of EAC meetings, and missing war reports, as well as the blog posts. Would anyone like to discuss the issue? Is there a motion to vote?
I move to vote.
Second. Okay, all those in favor of declaring non-pay-assents, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So that's passed. Okay, so moving on to the Sun Devil Express update.
Okay, so this will be the last Sunday Express update of the year. Kind of just giving you an update on how we're going to keep going because it's time that we work on a resolution for how we keep service on the next year. So, as far as the ridership numbers go, on Sunday, there's a pretty wide range from 17 riders to 134 riders. Most of the time it sticks around in the 50 to 75 range. It does fluctuate. Monday through Thursday, you see 0 to 12 riders on a regular basis, usually between 3 and 6, an average of 5 riders per weekend. So, we didn't really go over student feedback on this one because we really got a lot of student feedback this year, and at this point the numbers are kind of speaking for themselves. So, as far as recommendations go, the grocery drop seems to be pretty useful to students. That is something that I would recommend that we keep. I also would recommend that we expand this, that there is a need day that also needs student solar. And I think that's a lot less student that we've gotten a lot, and we seem to want that. So I think that would be useful to have another opportunity for students to have to at least 2 the grocery store. As far as the Monday through Thursday route goes, I'm recommending that we just discontinue that route. It seems to be reasonable. If you kind of break it down, we're spending about $990 per week on this route. And to take our average of 5 riders per day, we're spending about $50 per rider. And that's assuming that those are the same 5 riders every day, or that those are not the same 5 riders every day. And most likely they are the same riders. So really we're spending more than $50 per rider on that route, which is a lot of money. It's an easy waste of money. so what we did see is that, this is pretty similar to the numbers that we were seeing in service last year. It ran a little bit differently than the previous year, but ridership was pretty similar. We did make a bigger effort to make sure that students knew about it, so we actually put out marketing, we did flyers, we did check ads, posted on social media, and we really just didn't see any success with it. So after a year of actually trying to make the service successful, it did appear to be something that students needed. So basically, what I'm going to ask is that you all write a resolution, citizen responses a resolution that if we don't support the continuation of this Sunday Thursday route, that you support the continuation of the Sunday grocery route and expansion of that route. I do want to say that there may be some pressure, you may feel some pressure. For those of you who are a part of the administration next year or Senate next year, you may feel pressure to continue this route, to continue the Monday through Thursday route, and that I just want to remind you that it is within your power to say no. And I strongly recommend for those of you who are continuing to say no to. If the administration doesn't want to continue it, you can find another board on their own. But as far as we're concerned, we don't see success with it. So yeah, that's my answer.
Question. So this is student fee money that the Central Express.
It came out of the money that we give to student organizations. And so if we were to do it again, it would come back money again. And since it's not something that students are really using, it's something that's starting the student fee. They aside from those, the grocery office.
Just a comment. I think those people that do use it those 5 days, like we could do take it away from Monday to Thursday, but they can still use it the other days. So, like, if they are using it, they'll just use it that way.
Well, I mean, the one that printed out is different service. It's a different route.
Oh.
Yeah, so on Sundays it goes to the grocery store, Monday to Thursday it goes around the area, talking to lots of parking lots.
Oh.
So, it's not used enough to warrant paying those that 5 students.
Why does the administration think
It's a safety thing for the most part. They want to tell parents that it's a service that is given. Yes, right. So that's generally their point of view when you're on this similar arguments. Just understand that it's not, from a student use perspective, it's not being utilized. So while it may look good to have the service around, from a safety perspective, it's not actually being utilized by students who are simply getting for safety, obviously. Also,
to add to that, like everything within downtown is relatively close and in close proximity. So like walking, or people are usually like longboarding, walking, biking, different places. So it's necessary like go close enough that far. Their stops in Mercado already has to stop on the shuttle from the time people they drop off at Mercado. So.
None of those parking lots are water evidence. Usually they're safety walking.
I mean, they do this.
They have safety escorts.
Just a question about the history of this. Is this something that the student brought up, or is it from administration?
This began the year before we were even. It came a couple of years ago. It kind of was a safety concern for the most part. It started out as a safety trolley, and so that was the original. Was all of the trolley, the safety trolley, was called the safety trolley. And so we wanted to do it. This what?
They would deny that. Sorry.
But
They literally called that some kind of safety shuttle. They didn't call it that. They had that.
Yeah, so either way, they mentioned safety, and so and then last year we wanted to expand it to allow more student access for transportation. So we explored the gotcha cart route, which really little golf carts. It's basically an introduction where you just take to use that where you want to go. We couldn't use that because wasn't completely accessible was in this route, which was kind of safety and not necessarily was the key just to provide students with education. So, I just want to let you all know too, going on, I guess, the history a little bit more too. So like, I was Vice President of Services when this was first brought out during Frank's administration, like a safety thing. And then Kat's exactly right in the sense that this year we kind of came in and we're like, okay, well, there wasn't a lot of marketing done, so maybe it's just because students didn't know about it, as well as we came in and we were like, we won't even advertise the safety thing, we'll advertise it as general transportation. So a lot more students will use it now because they can use it to get to local restaurants, they can use it to get to friends' houses, they can use it to get to parking, really, and we try to like advertise this really creative use of it to increase numbers. So I just want you all to know, just in case you're not sure where I stand, I do not think the money through those direction continue either. I think this year we did really well when it came to marketing about this. I think we basically made sure every single student in the residential hall, every single student we could always talk to knew about this. We gave out tote bags to everybody. The tote bags were trying to reinforce the grocery route. I just really think that Kat did a good job trying to make sure students knew about it, and we're just still not seeing that. So I want you all to be aware, in case you were curious where I stand, where I completely agree with Kat, that the money through Thursday should continue, and that we did try this year to creatively make it to what students we thought they might want, and students are trying to want grocery. And then I have a question. Students I know are requesting the grocery route for the Target. Is that still a recommendation?
Yeah, so that's something that gets brought up a lot for the students to really easy to implement rather than go straight to Target. So one thing that I've actually been discussing with the team is maybe that for next year you work with RIJ to provide the shopping carts, like not like big the real shopping carts, but some like mini thing so that it was students to like carry on the groceries and then to provide discounts on like houses and for them shopping to get groceries. Because the problem that people do, the reason they were not willing to take the light rail to go to Target when they wanted their own vehicles, that was it was inconvenient to carry all of their bags, and it wasn't comfortable, and they had to pay for the light rail to go do that. And so we offered some more convenient way to carry your groceries back, and a discount for houses on the light rail to do what they might be wanting to do. With all of our sustainability issues, the use of facilities are on the next generation.
A student actually brought something up to me this week. We heard about other universities, I think in California, doing some partnerships with Uber for safety and for like going from like place to place on campus. So, I know downtown is small, but it was something where like Uber gets some money from the university, so I'm wondering if that is something we can do.
Something that I can talk about this year, but I don't know whether or not.
So if you want, I can do a tiny bit of update on that. We did end up talking to them kind of the end of last semester just to check on it. Something that we talked about was the possibility of having a proposed trial period with them, where they would kind of give 1,000 kind of codes to students to get free line during a certain area. We would see how many students were utilizing it. Because one thing that I did talk about was like the trouble sometimes we accept the contracts, and we find myself working well, and we're still on the contract. And so they did say they would work with us as far as the trial period. The way it seems to be working is that they suggest that we will basically be subsidizing a certain amount of trips of an average price, and we'll cover that cost, and then students will cover whatever excess kind of thing, and then we would increase or decrease it depending on the amount of students we're seeing, and they are going to be accessible. One of the problems we have from a PR standpoint is that Uber's not known for supporting academically successful initiatives. They're known for going to partying, and we don't want to support students going to partying, we want to support them going around. So that's one of like the PR standpoint that I ended up getting kind of the concerns from, at least from the administrative aspect as far as Uber. From a student aspect, I like the idea of trying it. And then the only thing too is that we do have to keep in cost because it is still a very expensive service. Spending, say, 1,000 rides for X amount of time, and then it's $5 per ride.
So, I don't understand the whole academic and partying here. Like,
so Uber sometimes when you first make it, you think about when you're trying to get home from a party.
Right.
And so the problem is that we don't want it to be misconstrued from a PR standpoint that we are paying for party rides. You know what I mean? So that's the only thing, it's just a counter argument to use Uber. I still like the idea of using Uber, it's just something that we have to be cognizant of, is that we'd still be supporting like safety rides and rides to get to a friend's house and study and stuff like that, and making sure it's not gonna be used for like.
But could it be used in like, I don't know how the service works. So
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you know, like if there's like a way to make it so it's like certain.
Yes, we
certain-
could use the geographic zone. Yes, where we could only bring students to this street, and that's the farthest we go. Obviously, we make it to where it makes sense, but yeah, we can do geographic mapping. I totally understand what you're saying as far as like how we wouldn't be funding parking. It's just something we have to be cognizant of, especially when like the public community sees it, the public might misinterpret it. We all understand we are not a part of the school. I think other people still sometimes try to fit us into that box.
So, like if it has, is there an option for certain destinations?
So usually the way it works, and actually this is the something I'm a proponent of, is that you call and say, I need to go to X, and you check if it's in the geographic area map that we allow, and say, we'll take you to X. And it
So
could,
can we choose certain areas, certain places, like?
it'd be any place within the geographic circle, basically, or square. Yeah. And so the way we would have to decide if it ended up trying to move forward with it is like, we could fund $5 a ride for the first 1,000 every month or something, or, you know what I mean? The cool thing is that they are ADA accessible, so that's a nice thing that every single student wants to ride could potentially get a ride. And then we did talk about wait times, we want to make sure wait times. The only other issue we have with this is that we want to make sure wait times would be different for students with disabilities. We want to make sure we weren't funding a service where a student would only wait 30 minutes, while a student without would wait 15. So that's something we talked about that as well, saying we really want to make sure that Uber vehicles that are ADA accessible would be accessible enough for the weekend or stable enough. So, by the way, I have a presentation on this in my Google Drive. If you look up Uber, it's ASU Federal Express plus Uber, so it will give you all the information I'm quoting and set and quotes and stuff like that.
Yeah. So we have Riley, Master, Case, and Mary. So through the geographical like setup, that way it would like stop people. We would like make sure that it would stop people from actually being used for marketing. Because like if it's like people still could be using like passcodes for that.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what we're getting part of the issue. That Uber is what is thought of, right? When people want to get home from the party safely, which I understand why that is somewhat actually a good choice because you want students getting home safely, but it's something that's breaking their student code of conduct. Because students are supposed to be partying. And so it helps that we have a geographic location, but technically your friends with that geographic location will completely solve it.
So you can go to the destinations like the price was talking about?
But we could potentially, we just have to make sure that we don't make it then so inflexible that it's no longer helpful to students, you know what I mean? But you could potentially do that, because the other thing too is that in reality, what you want to help people do their friends' houses to study. So I wouldn't want to necessarily say you can't drop people off at an apartment complex, you know what I mean? Because the whole point I think of Uber is that it's more flexible.
Yeah, just from like party, I mean, I don't see where that, for instance, would happen because we'd rather have Uber for the month than travel home and travel. So I feel like if we explain that to the public, like, the bottom line is whether people like to do it or not, college kids do work, you know, it's just how it is. And if we at least subsidize an option where they don't want to drive home and drive, I feel like it benefit the community and the university at large.
So the part of the issue that comes up with that a little bit is that it is technically breaking student code of conduct. So it would be USGD saying, and this is what you can't run Uber, but as far as like that messaging, we get into a tricky situation of saying, we're funding getting home from partying, you know, like safely. So we would probably more just focus on messaging that's saying, that doesn't need to be from partying kind of idea. I understand what you're saying.
Right.
Obviously, I want students to get home safely, but that's just what we can do.
Right, I'm just saying, if that they would come on, in the discussion.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, so you guys are officially required, this is administration. So this is not necessarily entirely on, yes, that is still a consideration that we need to be aware of because you don't get to define your own world, sorry, we are defined by others. However, too, on the second part, I'm fairly certain most of us up here in the negotiating table have not basically been absolutely anti, we're not doing this because of the Uber or the grant. And there's certainly not, we're matching things like that, but we actually went against a company called I'm Schmack. But this is not one of the times that that can happen. That is serious though, guys, because that actually was something we had to go against for a whole range of reasons. But, so yeah, if you say, I love these arguments, get them all down, but remember them for our friends that are not here in this room, that are not listening to this, because that's where you're actually talking about. So do you have any questions?
No, it's just, that's part of what we deal with, especially when we're working with administration. I think the thing you have to be cognizant of ASU is that people automatically have both parties. So we have somewhat a harder, PR standpoint.
Case.
Just point of clarification, USC is the school that has the partnership. And the service is nightly from 7 to 2. And it runs with the campus cruiser. It's their shuttle service around the USC campus. And you can only use the Uber ride if the wait time exceeds 15 minutes. And you are limited to the area of the campus cruiser. So that's just geographical, yeah. And so it seems it's very difficult to abuse this system because there's it appears to be things implemented to stop students from going outside the range as well. You can't use it unless the campus cruiser has taken more than 15 minutes after you've requested it for to be there. So it seems it's very difficult to abuse, and and about the going to liquor events, also study or drinking and partying, because it is limited by the campus cruiser. It appears to only be a radius of either a quarter mile or a half a mile around the campus. Like that'd be difficult here because most students, it's a very small campus, and most students live within, or not most students, some students live within a mile, so they may go to like Ropa and other academic complexes, and I can see where it could be abused there. But if you limit the destinations geographically, I feel like this could work well.
I just had like another comment about that. Is like Uber has certain prices, especially like if you're in Tempe and they're really busy and there's not a lot of people driving. That means that, I mean, yeah, the university will get $5 of that, but when your ride is 5 times the rate, then that's not really covering much of it. And so that's another concern, I think, with Uber is that oftentimes their rides are more than how much they're already costing because of how many people are driving, how many people are using the service. Especially like
Jackson?
I really like the discussion. I think we're all bringing up a lot of excellent points, and there's definitely more than just one point in order to solving this sort of transportation, not so much issue, but addressing it in an effective manner. I would ask that those individuals definitely stay in contact with Kat, and if you want to CC me on those emails too, and Ernie as well, and maybe even Jimmy, so we can all stay a little together as we move forward.
I just want to say that this kind of reminds me of one of the resolutions that we passed a really long time ago, where it said something had to do about something like calling on a friend who's young and helping them. I forgot.
Yeah, let's see, or it was the benefits.
Yeah, so this just kind of reminds me about that. Like we're not condoning drinking, but we're condoning safety. So I just want to keep that in mind.
Oh, yeah, just tagging on about that. Your interview with me, you asked me if I could have all the resources to one project. And I said it would certainly involve campus safety, and I just think it's, I mean, I do think it's a great idea. Yeah, I don't know, being a small government guy, like I think that's the one thing that government can help with is like, and granted it is small campus, like, I've said that multiple times, but I don't know, I'm all for this personally.
Right.
How much is spent each semester on this FLL program?
It's, I think it's a total of 36,000 $36,000 a month, so it'll be $18,000 this semester. So it is about $1,000 a week.
So if it's $18,000 per semester,
How many months are in a semester? 3, 4? How many then? 4 divided by 18 is.
So I think that, like, I don't know, just like thinking about all of this more, like, if we're already spending $18,000 a semester on the Sun Devil Express, what if that instead, like, was just able to go to Uber? And like, students have errands to run at other places too, it's not just groceries, or it's not just getting somewhere safely, but if we're spending that money for them to get to only one place, why don't we spend it for them to get to many places?
Yeah, I mean, that in the end, the goal of this service is that's what we're trying to do. It's just a matter of letting out all of those other issues that we talked about, ones that we have to gotcha them, violations, so that will be covered. We will also figure out.
This one, you're running to be right.
No, we could set it geographical boundary.
Yeah.
So we would set it now so we could go to.
That's right. Hey, Ryan.
Anyhow, so grade college audit, you are one, careful if you just assume that this is a problem, because we've assumed that there was a safety problem with students with flunks who spent the use to get to their parking lot 2 years in a row, and it has panned out 2 years in a row, and we did it. So we assumed that was a problem. And so make sure you understand that, and make sure you do feedback after, as we've done this year, after the fact, instead of just pre-service survey. Because pre-service survey, a lot of people told us they wanted to use this to get to the parking lot. Not many actually did, or of them walked past the Sun Devil Express as it was operating to get to their cars. So that was something you want to keep an eye out for, and you'll actually want to have post-service or at least investigate that. The only other thing is, besides not just assuming that there's a problem off the bat, is that just be warned, there have been very interesting comments from the administration in the past. You have full control over your student fee budget, you have full control over your operations budget. Both of those are to the benefit of the student government. If, for instance, someone in the district and even down at the students tells you that you cannot fund this, they will be lying. So do not listen to that, because that was a comment that was made during these meetings and was strictly retracted. So they are well intentioned, they help us a lot, but there are certain times where the things keep in mind their own rights.
Really quick, sorry. I want to mention another issue that we have with Uber that we'll have to think about whether or not we decide we would need another Uber service. We might find out that we just need it. We're shooting was that Uber drivers don't require background checks, so we have to worry about that too with our students. Right now, some of these drivers go through background checks, and they all should be checked out as great people to drive our students around. That was an issue that we had with Uber as well. That the drivers don't necessarily go through background checks, and we want to make sure we're trying to do drivers drive our students around. I just shared the presentation well.
I just have one question about route. Is the schedule posted up in public at every stop?
Yes, it is. It is most of the time. So there are a few days where it doesn't seem to, so we don't put it up, but they are supposed to be posted every single time.
No more questions? All right, we're moving on to Senate Bill 21, which is sponsored by me. It's basically just changing the wording on the bylaws from 2 days to 2 business days. So that would be in Title I, Article 4, Section 5, and Title I, and Title I, Article 5, Section 4. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, it passes. Moving on to Senate Bill 22. It's going to be green. Back to you.
This is exactly what we talked about. The biggest thing for you all to be paying attention to is that lower line is basically the following. There is the proposal of the establishment of a student fee or a change in a student fee, change being flexibly defined as increase, decrease, or altering the purpose of said fee. The president must adhere to the following procedures. The president must engage with students as if they are full-fledged partners in decisions and plans to an outreach campaign. The Senate must pass a formal resolution expressing their opinion on said fee or fee change. The president cannot take a formal vote within the Council of Presidents until the aforementioned items are met, and the president's vote must reflect the opinion of the Senate.
Is there a movement to discuss? Motion to discuss. Okay, all those in favor of Senate Bill 22, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Alright, it passes. Okay, with that, does anyone in the audience have anything they'd like to say?
I was doing a little bit of research over here and said, and this goal is 800 plus road wireless networks. Not 300, but 800. Yeah, that's a comprehensive list there.
Can I talk to you after the meeting?
Are there any final statements?
Very interesting. All right, business casual dress code at that meeting. Please do not forget this. Why I'm telling you this? Because number one, we want to basically be acting and considering this as a formal business meeting that gets things done. I do not want to have it all returned back to basically looking like a motley crew or whatever. This is basically see. And here's the other thing. Part of that is to keep our own morale up. Part of that is to make sure that administrators and others take us seriously. Specifically because I want to remind you that just because it's in ASU doesn't mean that it's basically not being considered another business. During the tuition talks, one interesting thing at that hearing was that NAU, the president Rita Cheng and her executive team went to ASNAU's Senate meeting and discussed the entire proposal with them for U of A. They had their president, the graduate and the undergraduate, in on the actual creation of the proposal every step. Not so much here, and that's because we don't pass. Because we don't pass, we don't get anything for it. If you don't have an interest, if you don't want to put in the things, the other thing here too is that those people on U of A's team had to learn the entire university operation system. That's not easy. That's a lot of meeting, that's a lot of time, and that's a lot of effort. And at the end, they still had a tuition increase that they might not necessarily like, but they basically supported because they negotiated that. You want this, we have to ask, and we have to work for it. So that's all I got.
Did you resign?
I'm just gonna say that I don't remember voting on anything regarding our bylaws stating that there should be a strike for laws.
Do the wireless, like hotspots count as those road riders too? Is that?
Anything that's throwing out broadcasting rights, yes.
Yeah. So,
Broadcast.
Yeah.
Anything.
One quick thing is, Eric, if you want to talk about that, we can hear more about it, and Kate, I'm sure. And the only thing I wanted to mention, so I don't know if all of you are aware of this, but when you go to certain amount of absences that are allowed in student government, or the bylaws make it to where I'm going to ask for 30 on basis, tardies count as absences. So 2 weeks, no tardy meetings. This is any meeting that the president or Senate president deems mandatory. So for those of you in my president's meeting, it's president's meetings that count as well. So I'm done with start counting for late and we'll count those absences. So please keep that in mind.
Savannah? I'm just asking this really because we got a question on our Twitter. Someone tweeted at us, is the smoothie shop and the SDMC first floor open? Is it exist?
It's at the YMCA and we don't know if it's still open.
or not, I didn't get.
Does anyone else now have an idea? I feel like I would really
Like, no, not a lot of people don't know YMCA stuff, especially if they're your student, they're just kind of the.
Okay, I'm just wondering, so I can answer this first time later.
Yeah, well,
Okay, Hunter? Bryce?
Karina, you said something about something there. Absences. What's the absences?
So exactly, if you can have two, you can have, if you get over 2 unexcused absences or over 4 excused absences, which usually only 24 hours before. If you get over either of those categories, you're not a citizen. It counts as an excused absence if you're leaving. So it counts as part of the accumulation of that 4.
First semester.
This is first semester.
Yeah. What's for Senate?
I'm pretty sure it's the same thing.
Same thing. It's pretty much the same. Do we have a count of how many absences?
Dell should be helping with the attendance sheet for all those.
I always check on the attendance sheet.
Okay.
You should know.
You're following.
Smoothie shop.
So Smoothie Shop's close, yeah.
It's close. Wait, it's in your,
It's in the USGD. You just type in.
attendance, no problem. Okay, just a reminder that you can only have one final statement.
Guys, order.
And if you notify, say 24 hours notice that you're gonna be late to a meeting, is that nothing, or is that still absence?
No, if you say you're gonna be there 24 hours before it starts, you need to respond. That's excused. So even if you have 4 doctor's appointments, they still count against you in a way.
Let's say you're gonna be late 24 hours, well, like, oh, I'm gonna be half an hour late.
That'll count as an excused absence still.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting at 4:36 p.m.? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?